So it's great to meet you, NG. I'm looking forward to getting into it. And I want to begin our journey into into your life of writing words and being a neurodivergent optimist by asking you this. 5 years ago, this pandemic changed everything. How did you get through it, and how has it changed the way that you approach life today?
Well, I'm an introvert, so I was in my element. I
Yeah.
I really didn't mind, and to be honest, it was writing. That's when I started writing my first manuscript. So that really helped get me through a lot of difficulty that I was going through at the time. It was a cathartic experience for me, and it saved me in a lot of ways. It's kind of been like this beacon of light and hope for
Yeah.
me. Very empowering to be able to write. I chose to do fiction writing because then I get to be the master behind the keyboard who tells the story the way I want to tell the story instead of the reality that I was living at the time. And all of us were living in our own ways
Yeah.
with the pandemic, right?
It was all about coping for sure, for sure. So let me ask you this. If I boiled down what you do on a daily basis, I would do it by asking you this. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day, and one of the kids is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
I'm an author. I write.
Okay.
And so my day to day is writing. I use block scheduling. I don't know if you've ever heard of that,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's very similar to, when you're in school, if we're talking about in the terms of being in front of a classroom, how you have different subjects for like 90 minutes at a time, and then you have your lunch block, and then depending on the school, when I was in high school, it was like you had four different subjects that you did every day. So I kind of use that in terms of my own planning for my day. I'm either, writing for a block, I have a writing block, or because I'm an indie author, I do everything. So I have blocks for like doing administrative tasks or my social media planning. And I'm also a single mom with shared custody. So I work around that as well. When my daughters are with me, I really prioritize my time around them. And I do more like administrative tasks and stuff like that when they're with me. And then when they're with their dad, that's when I really go into the flow of writing. And I block a lot of time in for my writing. Um, and that's kind of like day to day, it changes based on I take into account my energy levels. I'm a woman, so I have a cycle as well, that I take that into account whenever I'm planning out my days. But I love it. My days are spent creating for the most part. I'm a creator of content for either social media, um, of books, my and I also do admin stuff, and that's not as much fun doing the
Right.
bookkeeping and the
Yeah.
the
Not as
emails
exciting.
and yeah.
Yeah.
But it's all part
Yeah.
of the business, right?
It is for sure. So, what did you want to be at 12 years old? What was your dream life? Was it always to be a writer?
I've wanted to write for a long time since I was a teenager. I always liked books. Even though I'm dyslexic,
Yeah.
I loved storytelling. I loved that. Now, when I was 12 years old, I think I wanted to be like a dolphin trainer or something
Yeah.
because I'd just seen Free Willy, and I thought that was like a pretty cool gig because I
Yeah.
love animals as well. But then once I started like doing the English and being able to communicate, um, storytelling is so powerful, and I just fell in love with it.
So, when did you get that spark for wanting to write or loving books? Was there a specific book? Was there a moment? How did that happen for you?
I think I have to say my father actually was the one that kind of instilled that. He used to read bedtime stories to me as a little girl, to me and my siblings. And I was gifted a lot of books. I remember reading a lot of Nancy Drew and the Babysitter's Club. And as I got older, I was reading like Mary Higgins Clark, which is like mysteries. And then I started to see, and I don't know if this is like the neurodivergent in me, I started to see the patterns, the formula. So I found that really interesting that there was a formula to storytelling. I wanted to kind of try it on myself kind of thing.
Yeah.
And and it wasn't until I was in maybe my early 20s that I was like, I think I'm going to write a book one day. I'm not sure what
Yeah.
it's going to be about, but I'd love to do it. And I was in my 30s when I finally when I finally tried, when I started.
So, what was the first story that you wrote and you got a visceral experience from somebody and you felt like, I have a talent, this can go somewhere?
Well, I did go to school for journalism, so I was already writing, like that was my career, but it was a different type of writing. It was nonfiction writing. I was reporting on stories, and I was working in communications, which again, it was more of like a that's more of a um oh, the word is escaping me right now, like a publicist type of thing. When you're working in communications, I was working for a politician. So you're writing, the style of writing is like you're writing press releases to say that there's going to be this great event, or there's, like it's a totally different style of writing than fiction writing.
Yeah.
But I ended up in a situation where um the politician that I had been working for, it was a really traumatic experience, and and people were finally talking about it. And there was a news story talking about his behavior. And I and many other women came forward to talk about our experiences working for this politician. He was a city councilor for like 30 years here in Ottawa, Canada. Um, and I was going through the process of, so when it comes to politicians, there isn't really like a regular HR process that you go to HR. So there was what's called an integrity commissioner. So that integrity commissioner will do an investigation and then find if the conduct, like if there was some sort of breach of policy and if there was any sort of misconduct. So I was going through that process of describing my experiences working in that office and what had happened to me. And um, it started out with an email, and I was writing out, sorry, I'm tapping here, but I
Yeah.
was writing out some of the experiences, some things that I had buried deep, deep, deep in like the corners of my mind
Yeah.
were starting to come back to me. Um, and I found the experience really cathartic to finally start facing some of the injustices, some of the abuse that I had experienced while working in his office in this political environment. And and then so in short, there was this whole, so many women came forward. There
Yeah.
were a bunch of investigations. They found that he had the Integrity Commissioner report. One of the quotes when it was incomprehensible incidents of harassment. Um, and and basically he got a slap on the wrist because there's nothing they could do. Like there's in any other case, he like if he were working as a CEO of a company, he probably would have been fired. But because he was a politician, there
Hmm.
wasn't much else that could be done. Um, and then also, the integrity commissioner sent what I had provided to them over to the police. So then I also went through a police investigation, and that was like a year and a half long. And in the end, um, charges were not laid. So so I didn't really see any real accountability for the injustice that I experienced at this politician's hands. And many other women, same thing. I mean, I guess he did lose pay. People know about it now. So thankfully, because of that initial whistleblower that kind of opened up Pandora's box, and all of these other women started coming forward with their own experiences. I like to think that there won't be any future victims
Yeah.
of this politician as a
Yeah.
result of that. But in terms of justice and accountability for what happened to me, that really didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I got the idea for the Capital City series because I live in the capital of Canada.
Uh-huh.
And I took some of my own lived experience. And at the time, Trump had been elected for the first time, and there was a lot of conversations around the grab him by the kitty cat
Yeah.
quote. and all of the allegations that had come forward in regards to him. Epstein had just been arrested at that time. And it's interesting, I just finished the series and Epstein is back in the news cycle. So I took inspiration from what was happening in the news at the time to start planning out the series in combination with my lived experience working in politics
Yeah.
because Donald Trump was going into politics, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I found it very empowering to kind of, as much as my main character is very human and makes a lot of mistakes, the main character did things and said things that I wish I had handled herself in ways that I wish that I had, kind of thing, in similar situations to what I went through. And then in the end of the series, once it's all done, it's still very much mirroring the reality of today's society and what it's like for women working in male-dominated industries like politics, but I infused it with hope.
Yeah.
There is a level of accountability there, at least more so than I saw in real life.
Yeah.
So I found it very cathartic and empowering to rewrite the story and create a narrative where it is possible to see justice, to see accountability, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, that's great. I love that backstory. So let me ask you this. Who has been that inspirational force for you to go after this dream of writing and become who you are today? A hero, so to speak.
Oh, I wouldn't say that, but thank you. That's very kind. Honestly, it's my daughters. I have
Yeah.
three little girls, and that really changed me. I thought about what I went through and my experiences, and the thought of my daughters, like it, I don't want to even think about it because
Yeah.
I'll start crying.
Yeah.
So I know I can't protect them from the world forever. Like they're still pretty young. My eldest is 9, and my twins are 6. I can't protect them from the world forever, so I'm going to try my best to influence it and change it in the ways that I can. And that's I've decided through writing. I also do advocacy work. I've been trying to, here in Canada, um, myself and many other women, there are tons of us that are advocating for changes to the laws that dictate what happens to municipally elected officials when it comes to misconduct and harassment. And a bill actually has been brought forward. There's something on the table. So it's been 5 years that this has been going on, but we're finally starting to see progress there. So my daughters are really what inspire me because I want a better world for them.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Going in kind of in this Davy and Goliath kind of scenario of trying to take down a politician for the wrongdoings and what they did, that's a pretty big task. And there's a lot of people out there that have done this. There's a lot of people that have banded together to seek out justice for somebody that's done very nefarious things. On that landscape, who do you admire? Is there someone that you would love to meet and talk to that's done the same thing as you that had different results?
Oh, there's so many incredible women that I would love to meet. Um, I mean, in terms of American politics, like AOC, I think she's doing some great work in the United States right now. I would love to meet her and sit down with her and pick her brain about how she just keeps going. She just keeps showing up and within the bounds of the rules, right? She's doing it and she's doing it right so that they can't come after her kind of thing. They
Yeah.
still do. They still try to, but
Yeah.
AOC is a huge inspiration to me because it can be like it can really be disheartening, you know?
Yeah.
And she just keeps getting up and fighting, and I think she's awesome. And then
Yeah.
also, I just finished reading Michelle Obama's. I know she wasn't technically a politician, but she's an incredible woman.
Yeah.
Michelle Obama. I read her book Becoming, and I would love to like just sit down with her and talk about being a mom to to young ladies and just all of the incredible work that she's done and her story um, of dealing with not only being a woman but the intersectionality of being a Black woman
Yeah.
and everything that she's overcome. She's just so inspiring. She's incredible.
So speaking of inspiring, what inspires you every day to wake up to do this work, to write, to create these narratives, and to do everything that you do and taking care of your own soul? What is that motivation every day for you?
I'm gonna sound like a broken record here, but it's my daughters
Yeah.
again. The 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 lifestyle that I have as a writer, I'm really able to prioritize them, and I love that. And I feel like I've done, I worked in politics and I worked in government for a while as well. And so I did like employee wellness certification as well as leadership training and like that kind of thing. And everything I learned about in leadership training is like you have to model the behaviors. This whole idea of do as I say, not as I do, it doesn't it doesn't inspire respect really. And by pursuing something that I always wanted to do, by pursuing my dream, I'm teaching my daughters that they can pursue theirs and that you have to, like, it's not going to just fall in your lap. You have to work for it. You have to show up every day and be consistent. Um, but you can do it. And I think it would be hypocritical of me to be telling my daughters to follow their dreams and I'm not doing it myself.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. If you were to have a dream tonight, you ran into a younger 18-year-old version of you, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've gained, what advice would you impart on that young version of you?
Ooh, I think to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
This confidence that I have now has been earned. I have gone through fire, and I think a lot of hardships came from a belief that I wasn't worthy, that I wasn't good enough, I wasn't smart enough, that I wasn't capable of living the dream that I wanted to live. That just wasn't for me because I wasn't worthy of it. So I would love to tell the 18-year-old version of me that you can do it, to have confidence in your abilities and to remember that you are the captain of your own ship, of your life, and to live that authentically, to be that captain for yourself, not for what society says you should do or what your parents or your friends or whatever, to just be authentic to who you are and what you want and know that you can do it. Have confidence that you can make it happen.
So having a dream like becoming a writer is you almost erect this world like you're reading a book where it's this pristine kind of ideological notion of how things are going to turn out, what it's going to be like. But then there's the reality of what it actually is. What's the difference between the dream of being a writer and the fact that it's happened and you're living it? What is that area in between the dream and reality?
Well, I think there's a lot that goes into being a writer, a lot of the grind that when you think about your dream, you think about like when you've arrived, when you're that best-selling author, you know, um, when you're on those book tours and you're able to go and do all these interviews, and maybe like travel and go write your book in while you're sitting in Italy or something overlooking like there's this fantasy,
Uh-huh.
right? And it's possible. It's absolutely possible, but there's a lot of grind to work up to that. And that is my goal. I want to get there one day and be a best-selling author and hopefully spark conversations, inspire change through my writing, which maybe is like a really a really aspirational goal, but I nobody talks about the amount of work that you have to put into it. It doesn't just happen. You have to really, I've had to learn a lot about the industry, constantly learning different aspects of not just the writing and the craft, but everything else around that, around the book marketing and all of that kind of thing. Like there's a lot of grind that goes on
Yep.
in the background. And I think, I mean, I've seen lots of interviews where people talk about that. And then, when you finally make it, you're like an overnight sensation. But I think a lot of people that are overnight sensations, there's a lot of grind leading up to that. There's a
Yep.
lot of consistency, a lot of waking up every day and choosing their dream, that eventually it happens for them because they just don't give up. They just
Yeah,
keep on going.
for sure. So let me ask you this. I'm going to put your powers of storytelling to the test with an improv question. I'm going to put you into a room of people that know you as a writer, that has known you professionally throughout all of these years, and you're going to go to the front of that room and tell them one fun story. The first concert you went to, jumping out of an airplane, outrunning a bear, a really interesting place you traveled to that was unexpectedly magical, some kind of fun story that they may not know about you. What would you tell that room of people?
Hmm. There's so many to pick from.
Yeah.
Well, when I was relatively new to writing, I was working for a fly fishing magazine, and one of the coolest experiences that I had is the fly fishing magazine sent me to Northern Ontario, and I ended up being able to go. It was on there were all these little lakes. So I went in a tiny little airplane that was like a tin can of an airplane. Got in there and with this he was a lawyer actually, but his family owned this fishing lodge. So he was kind of my host. And we got into this little tiny airplane and we hopped around all of these different lakes. And and as we were flying, I got to see a moose out in the wild for the first time, and it was so large and majestic. Even though I was on an airplane, I could see how huge this animal was.
Yeah.
And then we landed on a lake in the middle of the lake, and then we ended up fly fishing off of the actual airplane. So we stepped out onto
Wow.
um the little I don't know what those are called, the float
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
This is where I would pull up my thesaurus
Right. Right. Right.
to help me come up with a better word than float
Like
things. But
airplane buoys or something like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was standing on that and fishing for trout, and it was such a cool experience. It was the neatest thing ever. And that's something that I'll carry with me. I'm really grateful. That was one of those moments where I was like, this is my life. This is so cool. And I
Yeah.
was only like 23 or something at the time.
That's cool.
And that was the job I was getting to do was pretty awesome.
Did you catch a trout?
It was this big. No, I didn't
That's
catch
what
anything.
I was gonna ask. Was it world record? Yeah.
No, I didn't end up catching anything,
Yeah, it's
unfortunately,
hard.
which is why I didn't talk about that part.
That's fine. That's fine. And I figured you would. I was just curious because I went to Colorado last year and saw some people up close doing it, and it's just a very interesting world because I come from the Midwest and we just plop a worm on there. I've never been into the big fish. I just want that bobber to go down. I want that adrenaline, old school stuff. You just get
Yeah,
these little ding dong fish, but when you're out there looking for a big prize, it's hard to do. And fly fishing is just a whole other art itself.
it is. It is. Like actually learning how to cast is very graceful,
Yeah.
actually.
Uh-huh.
And I was very lucky. I was learning from some of the best fly fishers in Canada.
Yeah.
And it was a really cool and may I say that the fly fishers that I was because I was working again in a male dominated industry, but they were such gentlemen,
Yeah.
especially compared to my experience working in politics. The
Yeah.
fly fishers were just total gentlemen in
Yeah.
comparison.
Yeah. So, Angie, let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, everyone that gets your books that's a fan of yours, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think um that I'm kind, that I'm reliable, um that I'm an optimist. I'm hopeful, and yeah, I think that that pretty much covers. Oh, and that I am an animal lover. I just adore animals so much. I love being around animals. I think as somebody that's neurodivergent, um, I find people it can be tricky sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, but animals are just way easier for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. They're great. So if anyone wants to pick up your books, anybody wants to reach out, any of the good business, where do they go?
ngavant.ca.
Okay.
They can find all of my books on my website or at Avant Author on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram. I'm on Blue Sky, TikTok, Threads, ng Avant Author. You'll find me there, and I would love to connect um, and hear about if you read my books, if you like them, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Sounds wonderful.
Thank you.
I will put all the links in the show notes. Wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thank you.